Hey everybody, Tripl-L here, and this is a video that's been a long time coming. Sorry, I gotta check the camera there. Anyway, hey everyone, you can see the title of the video. This is a video talking about my experience as a self-published author for the last 3.5 years. It's been a wild time. Back then, before I started the books, I had a more active presence on my YouTube channel, and then as time went on, the books became more of an important part of my life, and that's pretty much where I went. For the people that wonder where the old style anime videos went and all that kind of stuff, I pretty much just had to sacrifice those videos because this was a cooler thing to do. It was writing books and writing stories, and that was something that it rewarded my time a bit better than making the YouTube videos. But, I hope to come back to YouTube. So to those old viewers of the channel, I hope you've been well since then. This is pretty much just an explanation of what I've been doing from then till now. So the way this video is going to work, it's pretty much going to be very quickly me showing you a little bit of the back end of, hey, this is what it looks like to be a mid-tier self-published author. These are the considerations, these are the results, all that kind of stuff, and then I'll throw in a few little details here and there. I hope to make more videos about story publishing and book publishing. Hopefully all the suffering I've gone through, people will not have to go through as much suffering if they can just get the most optimized tips and tricks. One thing I will definitely say is that generally this is who I am right now. It might change in the future when I have a few more successes beneath my belt, but generally who I am right now, I don't really consider myself an author. I think I'm more of a book salesman. A lot of my strategies are geared towards selling books. They're geared toward getting money in exchange for the written material. Because otherwise, without the money, I can't do this. A lot of my focus is, I guess, more on marketing. To me, the quality of the book itself, I have some opinions about what quality you actually need. It's more about how you convey what you're trying to sell as opposed to the quality of what you're actually trying to sell. Anyway, I have a blank screen here. Let's just go over to the display that I have here for you guys. Alright friends, so I am a self-published author. I do a lot of things. I've recently become a ghostwriter as well. I work with other people, I write things for them, and then they publish under their name. One thing here, I don't want my YouTube channel and my author world to intersect in any which way. I'd rather keep those things isolated. I also have other people's names associated with my backend because I do publishing for them at some point. So because of that, I have to be really careful with what I can show here. I can't show you what the titles of the books are. I do have one book associated to my Tripl-L named The Dungeon's Guardian, and that will be an interesting book to talk about because it's one of my critical failures. But yeah, I'll just pretty much be showing you the raw information and just kind of telling you a quick overview of what happened, when, and why. So the first off is, I started this essentially, you can see how much units I've processed this month. It's not a very good month because I haven't released anything in 3 months. Let's go to lifetime. Okay, so that's how many books have been sold in a lifetime. I started in as this says, October 23rd, 2020 with my first book series. On the screen already, you can see a few spikes. The 3 critical spikes that you see there, plus that one little spike that's right over, I can't point it out, but it's right around December 2022. That's my second most popular series, but you really see when your popular series pops up, it's really the tide that raises all boats here. Anyway, 9,000 sold. Now this is specifically, I don't do paperback books. If I did, the numbers would probably be 10% higher. I do ebooks, and that's what this number is representing. So 9,000 sold. As you can see, 16 books there. Those 16 books do not count everything I've done, and I think there's actually 2 duplicates in there because I had to do some things for one of the publishers. So yeah, I'd say if I'm counting how many books I've done, probably between 14 and 20 right now. I'm working on a book right now that I'm going to release in the next few days. Hopefully that'll do really well. So what can we talk about here in this part? What is the reality of 9,000 books sold? The first thing I can tell you is just my story here. So in that first little bit of the graph, December 2020 to around March 2022, that's where I was working on my first series. It's really my passion project, but this first series was not very profitable, so I had to learn some hard lessons there. It was painful going through it, but that first series was a lot better than the majority of first series in the sense that it made money. This initial era is one filled with a lot of hard lessons, like learning about covers, learning about editors and all that kind of stuff. This is an era where I got screwed over by an editor and actually led me to not using an editor moving forward, because when it came to self-publishing, Like, you could make a good amount of money to like have a good living, but one of the most critical things, at least for my style of self-publishing, is keeping your costs low. And with an editor will sometimes, for my first book, I think it cost me like $3,000. And ultimately, when I looked at the edit afterward and I looked at the reviews, it just wasn't worth it. The good thing was that the first book was able to sell enough to cover the $3,000. But it was not a worthwhile investment, which leads to the thing, like, if you're going to be looking for editors, you got to be careful. Exercise your judgment and make sure you get good reviews. That said, the editor at the time, I thought she was a pretty good one. She had a lot of good reviews. It just could have been better. But at that point, when you have that happening, I just took it all onto myself. I just learned English more correctly and just dealt with it. Since then, it's been significantly better, as you can see from the spikes. So the first era was the era with my first series. I did a bunch in that series, and then I decided, like, bro, I need more money, so let's try something new. I studied the trends, and that's where we get the first spike that happens in March 2022. After that, I keep going. There was a wonderful commenter, Gohan. I talk to him all the time. And, you know, the first big spike is a story that I had wrote specifically thinking about him. I wanted a story that he would really enjoy, even though he is actually a really big fan of my first series, which I really appreciate. So that's what led to the first big spike, and when I did that story, it kind of taught me a lot of new lessons about publishing. And specifically for me was that sometimes simplicity is the best. If you're an anime or manga fan, maybe you know about isekai. And isekai, there's a lot of things that can be said about isekai, such as it being super cookie cutter or like super easy to understand, or a lot of them retread the same ground. One thing that really became clear to me as I was doing this was that there's a reason why isekais start the same. It's because it's the most profitable way to start. That's what I really learned when I released my most popular series. It was so simple compared to everything I had done before, and just seeing what it did made me reevaluate a lot of my strategies going forward. Because now this was a series that was actually producing enough money that I could take risks doing other series that at that point I realized were not going to be very profitable. So right around that first little month, March 2023 is really where I really appreciate how powerful that was. And that's like the very big middle spike that you could kind of see here. That's where that philosophy really took hold, and I started like trying to really optimize how I wrote my books to be more accessible. So right now with like my publishing journey, I'm kind of at the stage where I focus on accessibility. I focus on plots that are easy to understand. The thing is, like your first book in the series will always be your most popular, and your second book will sometimes be selling 60% as much as your first book. That's why that first book really matters. It's the one that's going to touch the most people, so you want to have accessibility. Something you'll notice with the isekais is that they all become very diverse after they get past like volume 2 or 3. And the reason for that is because that's once you've hooked in your initial fandom, you can continue going on from there. Now, let's get into the numbers. 9,000 for 4 years. That doesn't really seem like a really amazing number. I'm a self-publisher that only publishes on Amazon because of one particular feature, so let's go check that out right now. Alright, so the Kindle normalized pages read. If you don't know what this is pretty much for every page that a person reads, you get paid a certain amount of money. Usually it's 0.004 cents you get paid per page. Now, I have 12 million pages read. I already did the mathematics for you. A standard book of mine is about 350, which really when you divide that, you end up with the equivalent of 30,000 books sold, which is a much nicer number. Honestly, the Kindle Pages Read program has been very good for me. Like, one of the big things when you're coming into publishing, you have to decide whether you're going to be like on Amazon or you're going wide. And going wide usually refers to like putting your book up on other places like Google, Apple, Barnes & Noble, that kind of stuff. I chose to stay with Amazon because I wanted just to optimize everything on the Amazon environment. Who knows, maybe I should be in other marketplaces, but it's working for me. I advertise through Amazon with a very small budget. Anyway, 30,000 books sold. When we look at the page count, you might say, but Trip, yo, is it really 30,000 books sold? Like, what if, like, let's say 300 people only read one page of the book. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as the money reaches my bank account. Like, for example, people buy books and a lot of them don't read it until like 10 years later. They just sit on their bookshelves just to look cool, right? So really, I don't care when it comes to how people interact with the book. The reality is, if you read 300 pages of the book, or if there are a total of 300 pages read that all come from 300 people, 1 page per person, the profit that I'm going to get from that is equivalent to if they bought one book, pretty much. So that's why I don't really care too much about that. I take the 12 million pages read and I appreciate it. Thank God. It made my dreams come true. Again, you can see the same spike pattern that happened with the orders, which just shows what happens with your series, which just is indicative of the most popular series being released and all that kind of stuff. For the record, I think I have 6 series running right now, and 2 of them were critical failures. The good thing is that one of the 2, Dungeons Guardian, made back the money that I spent on it, so I didn't really care that much. As long as I make back, like, look, if I make $100 on top of whatever I spent, like, it's good enough. It was a good learning opportunity. Anyway, 12 million pages read. So altogether, we're roughly at like 40,000 books sold, which, in the grand scheme of things, it really isn't that impressive. I'll be the first to admit that. But in the world of self-publishing, it actually is pretty mid-tier, I would say. It's mid-tier sales. In the world of self-publishing, it's good. People want to be in that position. What does 40,000 sales look like when it comes to like your book metrics? For me, most of my books, aside from the 2 critical failures, reached 200 reviews, and my most popular series has 2,000 reviews. Yeah, I think I did the mathematics on that right. So, good stuff. It looks good on the Amazon page. Whenever I release a new book, I get to compete with actual real light novels. So that makes me feel really good. Whenever I release, I'm usually in top 5,000 of the Amazon store. So really, this is just the reality of what it looks like to be a self-publisher who probably isn't a genius. Like, one thing I will say for sure is that I am not a savant in this. I had to fail a lot before I got to my successes, and pretty much every time I fail, it's like, hopefully I will be able to get a lesson from that and be able to elevate the stuff to the next level next time. Now, there is one more component here that I'm not really talking about that kind of boosts things up further, and that is audiobooks. Audiobooks have been a game changer for me. Because of the successes of my book, I was able to get an audiobook publisher. So I still consider myself self-published because the audiobook publisher only comes in and picks me up whenever I have a nice book on Amazon selling. So like, not my 2 critical failures. So the audiobook publisher comes in and we've been selling the audiobooks, and yeah, as it turns out, self-publishing, the genre that you are in and the niche that you are in will make gigantic differences. It also limits how much reach you will ultimately have, but that's what makes the equation about what's worthwhile it makes it a bit more nuanced for different people. Your ceiling is lower in that sense. Anyway, going into audiobooks, as it turns out, the genres I do work in, audiobooks are very good. So let me just very quickly show you an audiobook numbers, and I'll just give you a sense of like what does it look like when you're a mid-tier author selling audiobooks. Okay, so I will have to be careful here. I do have to block this out because it shows my publisher and the other people involved in this, and I can't destroy the illusion because there are pen names involved. Anyway, this audiobook, one thing that the publisher told me when I signed up with them is that where the money really is, it's in, what do you call it? Shoot, I don't use this term very often. It's like in your omnibuses. It's like when you like bundle 4 books together. Anyway, she told me that's where the money was. I didn't really believe her because I could see the metrics. But then like we actually released the bundle and it's like, oh shit, you know what? Yeah, gotcha. Money really is there. So very quickly here, this collection box set that we recently released. It generally averages in the 4,000s, and right now it's going down, and that does depress me a little bit. But when you're at the 5,000 number, you're usually selling 13 books a day. So let's just like round that down to 10. 10 books every day of the month. That's like 300 books, and at the profit margins that publisher was able to secure for me, it's like, wow, that is wild. So 300 books a month when it's at 5,000 for the majority of the month. That's pretty cool. The rankings, I think I'm very happy with how this worked out. It really changed my life a little bit because this is the box set of one of my first series, and that series really needed the help. Audiobooks, very profitable for me so far. Probably going to keep doing it with the publisher, going to keep working with the publisher. I haven't regretted it in any which way. So this is just a general overview type of video. Over these last 3.5 years, I have learned a lot. I want to keep learning more. One of the reasons that I started writing books was because I had my theories on how stories worked, and I was pretty sure my theories were worthwhile. Because I was doing a lot of reviews on series, a lot of time I felt like, well, you know, the things that I care about, I don't think the majority of people actually really care about. And also, I'm really bad at marketing on YouTube. I don't really like marketing on YouTube. I feel much more comfortable marketing books. But I really just wanted to prove to myself that my ideas about storytelling were correct. And so over the time, I think I've been able to do that. And that was one of my big motivators. And it continues to be my big motivators. Although now, like, I'm more focused on figuring out how to game the system more. I really want to break down what is the formula for a very solid self-published release. One of the big things, if you're going to be going into self-publishing, I do think, especially if you're not a genius, and when I say a genius, I mean like someone that does not have the natural raw talent to just be able to put up a book and make 10,000 sales on the first try. I'm not that kind of person. I can't give that kind of person any advice. I can only give advice to people that fail badly. Self-publishing, I ultimately believe that if you are not talented, it is a numbers game. It is diligence. It is just churning out your books. It's not uncommon to have self-publishers who have published 100 books. It's not uncommon, especially if you're in the romance side of things, to be publishing a book every month. Especially if you just are at that tier and you're just trying to make money. There's a group on Facebook that almost every self-publishing group on the internet or on social media recommends being in, and that's 20 books to 50K. I believe I got the name right. And that idea is pretty much writing 20 books and having each book produce $7 every day. If you have 20 and they produce $7 every day, you will be making $50,000 a year. It's a really nice, reasonable goal. And it really does, again, paint what the realities of self-publishing look like. One of the things that you will not have is a great budget. So a lot of times when it comes down to self-publishing, you're playing the number game. You're also trying to keep your costs low while also keeping your quality at a profitable level. And there is a profitable level of quality. Pretty much anything that does not take away your stars from reviews on Amazon. So one of the important things when you are going into the self-publishing is to do a lot of research on your competition, do a lot of research on what books are super visible on Amazon naturally. Amazon has like a lot of advertising algorithms. They have a lot of like exposure algorithms. So you really want to capitalize on those algorithms. If you're really good at social media, you can go into groups that are filled with avid readers, market directly there. A good thing to do for sure. Anyway, these are just general tips. Depending on the reception to this video, I'll make more specialized things like what are the 3 things you should really be focusing on in your first book, how do you maximize sales. But for this one, just know that to get to the point where you're making a decent living, you definitely do have to do your research. You have to understand what people want to read, and you have to know how to deliver that content to their eyeballs in the most pleasing way possible. It's all about getting them to hand over their money and feel good about handing over their money, because at the end of the day, bro, economy's tough. If people want to read a book, right, you have to make sure that you at least make the 2 or 5 hours that they spend with the book worthwhile and fun. No one wants to read a miserable book unless they're specifically that kind of reader, which there are a few like that. Anyway, what are my goals going forward? Well, I want to sell 1 million copies. It'll take a while to get there. We're at 30,000 now. Like in 10 years, we'll be at 300,000. Although, like, if you look at my chart, if I just like buckled down and just worked on my main series all the time, I'd be able to like pump up those numbers faster. But I get bored, so I need to switch around. And I do still want to explore all the genres. I want to find out what are the most profitable books I could ever write. So it is a bit of a game to me, but I do have a very concrete goal that's kind of inspired, I think, by something that Brandon Sanderson has said before. It's really this right here. And this has gone up recently, the followers. I want to get to a point where I have 10,000 followers on Amazon. I do believe in the theory of having 10,000 true fans. I think if you have 10,000 people who will always buy your stuff, that's a lot. Like that's like $3 per person, sometimes depending on the pricing of the book. That's a lot. That makes a difference. That'll make the life of my family a little bit better. So that's like one of my big goals. I want to get to 10,000 true fans. If I can get there, I'll be happy. I'll produce 10 books every year, and if I can sell all 10 of them to all 10,000, that would be amazing. But yeah, that's just a very quick sum up of my writing so far. That's the stuff I'm working on. I hope to continue pretty much growing exponentially. It looks like it's going to be a very good year for me with the audiobooks now showing their value. Guys, let me know what you thought down below, and let me know if you have any questions about publishing. Because this is just a reporting of what I did for the last 4 years, there's a lot more I can talk about in depth depending on what you want to see. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.